And you wanted to talk
Okay.
about sex trafficking tonight, right?
I was just gonna go wherever.
Okay.
Okay, no,
I was gonna
that's
fill it
fair
out.
All right.
because
If you wanna do, then do. Go do it.
How about
yeah,
if,
no,
if
well,
you want to be
I'll
my
outline
witness?
this for everybody just to
Yeah, save it.
do it
You know
quick.
what? Just save it. We'll
Alright.
maybe do it live.
Because this is the Sons of Trier pod. No, wait.
God fucking
Not
damn it.
quite.
Yeah, so you guys should probably be quiet for about a minute while I start the stream.
Loans are crushing my
Okay.
family, friends, and fellow Americans.
Me too.
We need student loan forgiveness beyond the potential $10,000 your administration has proposed. We need at least a $50,000 minimum. What will you do to make that happen?
I will not. I will not. Depends on whether or not you go to a private university or a public university. It depends on the idea that I will not. I say to a community, I will not. I'm going to forgive the debt, the billions of dollars of debt for people who have gone to Harvard and Yale and Harvard and Yale and then use that money to provide for early education for young children who come from disadvantaged circumstances. And I think any family making under $125,000 should pay for it.
Okay. Now, this is the Sons of Trier podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cohen, remix master, ass blaster, porno master. I said master twice, so the rhyme failed. Shit. I'm joined tonight by John Sinclair.
The human yarmulke clip.
That's correct. I'm joined tonight by Eat the Rich. Oh,
We're no longer joined by Eat the Rich.
we are no longer joined by Eat the Rich. That's worrisome. Huh. That's no good. Well, we're also joined by Cenk Angles while we get sorted out with Eat. Oh, he's typing. Oh no, my mic. Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. Okay. Well, we'll hear him in a moment. He's gonna barge in through the door. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be classic Eat, actually. And tonight I wanted to talk about something a little far away from me, on a far off land called California and Texas primarily, but also Florida and New York.
Check.
Oh, hey, there you are.
Hmm.
Eat the Rich.
That's better. Hey guys, how you doing?
That was
Buddy.
wild shit. So wild that happened.
Well, I closed out Clownfish, so that might have something to do with it.
Oh, I see, said the blind man.
I just decided to go new. No.
Yeah. That's
Fish.
That's pretty crazy.
Never trust those clownfishes. Never.
Are they generally untrustworthy?
Yeah, because anything that hides in enemies.
I
And
wanna,
is that I don't know how you say that word.
yeah, you said it.
Minima?
I've seen it written. I've never really.
Whomst among us trusts clowns anyway?
I don't. Wait. I
And
do.
fish. It's like a double. Don't trust it.
Krusty.
Yeah, I mean, you
Krusty
can't-
rules.
There's always like fish in mythology that just like I don't know. They do weird shit,
They do.
especially the Chinese ones. Come on, fish.
China fish. Damn. Yeah. No.
The sneakiest of all fish.
Sneakiest of all fish, the China fish. It's even sneakier than the Irish fish. And that's a sneaky fucking fish.
That's like an eel.
They would eat eel. It's very low culture.
Go around zapping people.
Yeah. It's very disgusting.
Unagi.
Anyways, get me my possum. Gotta get some of that.
Possum.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever be desperate enough to eat possum.
Yeah, you know, we could make it happen.
Like I'm just gonna gnaw on some bark.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Let's be real. So, last night, Dan was kind of having a lot of leg pain. Dan was kind of having a theory-heavy episode that got derailed. And then, you know, Dan's a little frustrated with himself. So then he turns to Twitter. And then he remembers what John Sinclair sent him into the production chat. Then Dan goes off. So tonight we present to you immigrations from a couple people who are a lot more rational than me on the subject, because I'm just angry about it and ineffectual. And with that,
Not angry at immigrants,
No.
importantly.
well, I mean, what?
I'm angry at immigrants.
Depends on the immigrant, you know. For the most part, the blanket category of immigrants, no, but there are certain.
Not all of them.
Hashtag not all immigrants. Yeah.
Gotta hashtag it.
You could find me an immigrant I'm mad at, is all I'm saying. But, you know, this has.
Yeah. No, for example, Sebastian Gorka.
Gorka. Gorka is an immigrant I'm mad at. So I can't say I'm not mad at immigrants, but I'm not mad at all immigrants, just like a couple. You know.
It's like
Yeah, anybody who physically of their own volition with their feet entered this country is probably good.
Most of them.
Very, very likely. Extremely likely.
Except
What
for
if they
Gorka.
rolled in? What if they rolled in like a log?
Dinesh D'Souza. There's an immigrant we didn't need.
What if they just floated? What if they just floated in?
No, I'm being honest. India didn't send its best.
Or its brightest.
Or its brightest. They sent a fucking criminal. I mean, India owes us Dinesh D'Souza. We took him off his, you know, we took Dinesh D'Souza off their hands so he didn't sully their population, and he is just trying to ruin ours. Thank God he's so fucking stupid he can't.
Do you remember when he like couldn't figure out how to do a legal bribe?
Yeah.
Which is like the thing, if you're a political operator, that's supposed to be the easiest thing ever, and you can't fucking figure it out.
Yeah, he managed to actually violate the bribery laws in this country, which is like, I mean, I don't know. It would be like,
Did he just walk up to a cop and give him like $1,000?
oh no, political operative. Yeah, he managed to do the one crime that is supposed to be like, it's there but doesn't exist. He managed to do it. Illegal campaign. Was it illegal campaign contributions? Was that it?
Yeah. He
Yeah.
just he
we got the
wrote someone.
laziest politicians these days. So
Yeah,
lazy.
he fucking wrote somebody a check for $3,000.
Yeah.
Basically, and like, you know, you're only supposed to give $2,000, but the point, all you have to do, the only thing you have to do is just give the money to the fucking American Enterprise Institute.
Mhm.
That's it. That's all you have to do. But he couldn't fucking figure that out. He just fucking wrote someone a $3,000 check on the spot. Like,
Yeah, he also didn't like give him the money and pretend he was buying a separate like hobby related piece of like something. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, oh, he gave me a baseball card that was worth $3,000, so I paid him $3,000 for that. Like, he didn't just make a story up. What a fucking shit poor immigrant.
All you had to do is do the minimum effort.
Yeah, the worst part is
Couldn't even manage that.
I bet because he came over as an adult, right? So I'm betting his visa was one of those like expert visas.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
probably was.
yeah.
Which means that shit doesn't like that's not real. Like that's not a real visa. Dinesh D'Souza single-handedly disproving a lot of stereotypes, like the stereotype that Indian people are really smart.
Ooh.
No, they run the gamut. Look at Dinesh D'Souza, literally.
Literally, just look at him.
Yeah, just look at him. He has a dumb face. He's a dumb man.
Bottom slipping.
But on a more serious note and something a little more tangible than my hatred of Gorkin, goddamn Dinesh D'Souza, professional idiot.
So, you know, I have two parts to this, and the first part of this, as framing, of course, to Dan being mad is like why we have the sort of situation with immigration that we have right now. And I'm going to be brief about it because a lot has been spilled, obviously. And, you know, I mean, it comes down to two factors, to the best of my estimation. The first factor is, of course, the war on drugs, and the Cold War, too, by proxy. But basically, to keep it very brief, we did a colonialism, and like the CIA did the thing CIA does in a bunch of countries, and we made a thing illegal that probably shouldn't have been illegal, and we overthrew some governments, we ruined some places, and we basically, you know, ironically, of course, as Trump put it, we turned a lot of countries into shitholes. That was our fault. And, you know, there was a mass, you know, desire to perform labor, essentially, because people needed legitimate money, and they wanted to send the money back home so that they could improve their countries. And the only work really was to work in the United States. So we
You
created
know how
essentially.
feisty they are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's that's the situation we created, and one of the things about this country is that, in much the same way that China, we complain about China state sponsoring their manufacturing, we do the exact same thing with agriculture. We pour tons of money into agriculture. It's essentially a state operation, not insofar as who owns the land directly, but insofar as like the fact that there's a market for it. Whereas China, they just fucking own the factories themselves, the government. Still,
Right.
there's a massive demand for cheap labor as a result, and immigrants would come here seasonally for a very long time through the 80s and most of the 90s, and they would work for a part of the season, send the money home, and then go home themselves. And as we made the DHS and we got more and more racist, we cracked down on immigration.
We love our racism, folks, don't we? We love it.
So
We love it.
the thing about cracking
Number
down on
Number one, fun time.
the thing about cracking down on immigration is that when you do that, you make it harder to cross the border. And with each successive season, the seasonal immigrant had to do more and more to get across the border until finally they made the calculation, you know what? This is going to be the final time I cross the border, because the next time I cross, I might not make it, because ICE or DHS or whoever might find me and send me back. I have to work and get these checks to send home to my family. So this time I'm going to cross and I'm going to rent, I'm going to do something to stay here permanently. So the more we cracked down on immigration, the more they stayed here and then had their families here and tried to send that money back home. And of course, that basically forcibly induced chain migration. We did a great job. We achieved the intended result. It worked perfectly. So essentially, if you ascribe to the idea that our government is white supremacist, which there's as many on this podcast have said, no way, no way, right? No way.
What have we done?
They managed to do like the exact opposite thing that they wanted. They managed to induce their own white genocide. It's very impressive, actually, when you think about it.
Induce Your Own White Genocide was a song on Cannibal Corpse's seminal album from the 2000s.
Please
So
do, go on.
this is the situation that we live with, and
How did
this
they
is
do that?
I mean, how did they do what? Make DHS or just
Induce their own I don't know the word you use, particular.
their own white genocide?
Yeah. How they do that one?
So
How they do
basically,
that, Cenk? I'm genuinely interested. Please tell me.
yeah, no. Well, I mean, the main thing is that they just
Are you taking notes?
the main thing is they managed to make it so that crossing the border would be super hard, and by making it super hard, every time someone would cross successfully, they would think to themselves, I'm not going to be able to cross next year, so I should just stay.
Right.
Which, again, it just it was counterintuitively, it achieved the exact opposite of what they wanted, because they didn't want these people coming here. And they just ensured that they would both stay here and have their families here. So yeah, they were very they really managed to make it so that, as Ann Coulter would say, we had the browning of America. That's Ann Coulter's words, not mine. So that's so
Yeah,
that
she really
Can
said
we-
that.
Can we just assume that this is technically a net win for the U.S.?
Well,
yeah.
we'll get to that. I mean,
It's a net stupid.
Yeah. I mean, the people who are doing it accidentally did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whoopsie
No, and
doodle.
I gotta say, when it comes to the actual results of the country becoming more diverse or whatever. I mean, you could argue it was a good outcome. I don't think it's like inherently moral or immoral, but the reason that it happened is certainly immoral.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I don't like when people talk about how in I don't know, something like 50 years the population is going to be like to borrow some bad terms here, like some sort of racial soup, in terms of people are going to be so mixed that maybe new ethnicities will emerge from the the God, I want to use a term other than race mixing, intermarriage or whatever. I don't think it's inherently moral or immoral. Like, there's no races that are superior, right? So like, it's not good or bad.
So let me
But
guess. So let me get this right. Their fear here is that they don't know what to call people because they're too mixed.
No, there's
No, well, it's like a demographic estimation that like in 50 years, people will intermarry to the point that like the same way, like I don't have a good example for this, probably because I'm not the best sort of perspective on this, but it's the same sort of way that if like you ever meet white people who tell you that they're like German and Scotch, Irish and French. So they're just like a mutt of like, and they're just like, well, and then they
just list like 10 things.
Yeah. So like in 50 years, a very large, perhaps a plurality or even majority of the population will be like that, but not with like European races like across the board, essentially.
We're already there, though. Everybody's already
We're
intermixed
getting
with everything.
And I don't, I'll say this much about it. While I don't think that people who are born that way are superior, it probably would be a good thing insofar as like it would piss off Nazis, and that would be good.
Well,
So I will say that.
I just want to stop you for a moment. There clearly is one race that is superior. Let's get real for a second, all right?
Okay, go for it.
Freaking fish.
Well, you can hate on them all you want, but mer people are clearly a superior race. They can breathe underwater and on land.
Yeah, but they got
got
the
us
fishy
there.
tails, so that's not nobody wants that.
Well, that's only the ones with the lady part.
Do
at
you
the
want a
top.
fishy tail? You want to see
You
next to
know.
a wet fish?
Listen, whatever
I'm
whatever
sure
you
she's got a
going
siren
for you.
song, but she's still like fishing up the bed.
Listen, if you have one with the fish part at the top, you're still having a fun time. Or a fish part at the bottom. You just
Oh,
just
you ain't about that
change-
cloaca life?
No, not about the cloaca life. Although, to be fair, if we're talking like hot ass mermaid, sure. They're the master race. They can breathe on land and in air. How do you lose? How do they lose the fight? You could say, plastic.
We got a mermaid. How
Big
hot's
fat.
that mermaid?
Yeah, well, they're putting it out there.
Is she thick?
She could be thick. And
Thick
she's always going to
mermaid.
have curves. I mean, she has to have curves. How else she's going to swim?
I mean, it makes sense because then it would float easier.
Yeah. She wraps that around you.
What if that was the conspiracy? All the mermaids are super thick.
I mean, ladies, you ever seen a dude mermaid? I guess that's a merman, if I'm going to be technical.
Dude.
She's a mer dude. This guy's
And he just
wrong.
looks like he looks like a Cal.
Yeah.
No, Keenan.
And obviously he looks like Cal Mitchell. They all look like Cal Mitchell. They're beautiful
face.
people. I mean,
Hellmaids, they call them.
I digress. I'm sorry for the digression. I just wanted to point out there is a master race. It's mer people, and we need to respect them. They won.
Dang it, Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
Aquaman wins again.
Yeah. Well, Aquaman wins again. That's exactly right. So, continue, sir.
So I'm going at a whirlwind pace here. I just want to cover these things quickly. We have the Trump administration, and the main point of focus with his immigration policy, the thing that got the most news was kids in cages, right?
Yes.
That was sort of the slogan, and what that refers to specifically is the policy where if again, a sort of form of crackdown where if a family arrives at the border with their children, they're separated from their children. Which, again, from two perspectives. Of course, it's absolutely completely inhumane. It's a terrible policy, and it of course is another thing in the sort of long list of examples where if you're a person who must cross into the United States for work because you don't have really any choices in terms of where else you can work, then you make the calculation. Well, I mean, now they're just doing genocide on people they catch. Like, they're only a couple of steps away at this point from just shooting immigrants on sight. So I better cross now because, who knows, next year they might just kill me. I mean, that's a completely logical conclusion to come to at that point.
I mean,
Not really. I mean, nobody's really like, oh, now is the time out of all like who's really doing that?
a lot of
A lot of
people.
times, they just like we fuck up their countries and they leave.
No,
And
I
then
mean,
they just keep moving, and everybody's like, nah, you can't stay here, fam. Keep going.
And well, I mean, the people who are doing that, even so, again, Latino. My father actually just last year,
I mean, people, all
maybe a
kinds
year
of
and a
people
half
coming from
ago now,
everywhere.
maybe a year and a half ago now, looked at the situation in the country and actively said, he felt like he was at risk, even though he's a completely legal person with a green card.
Yeah, but that's
and
by
got his
design. That's what they
citizenship.
do.
yeah, I mean,
It's just it's the decision making process, right? Is that you look at these situations as someone who regularly engages in them, and you say, what happens if this green card is not renewed by a government that doesn't want me here? And you
Is
take
this
the steps
a
to
is this a
mitigate those risks.
is this an actual increase in flux?
Yeah, genuinely,
And that happened in the last 2 years,
2 to 4.
2 to 4 years.
Mhm.
Interesting.
I think it was. I think it's a point of order. I think it was around 2017 when they started. The
So it's sort of like
party crackdown.
the big bad wolf comes to town. So everybody just like fucks up then.
I mean, they take the steps necessary to reduce their overall risks for long-term plans, right? So in the case of someone with means, i.e., my father, right?
Oh yeah, they can just buy their way across.
You get your citizenship, right? You take the
Yep.
test, you do the work, you get your citizenship. For those without means, you come across, and rather than take the risk of not being
I thought at
renewed,
some point
you
they
come
were
across
all
and
just
stay.
like, I might as well just stay where I am.
No, I mean, most of these people did want to go back home. Like it's not like they come here with everything and everyone. Like they have families and lives back in the countries that they're coming from. Statistically, the vast majority of them.
yeah, and the other thing too about it is that by cracking down on things and creating a system where immigrating legally is harder, because we definitely also did that at the same time
Yeah,
during the Trump administration. As you crack down even on the legal end of things, what you also end up doing is creating a situation where all of a sudden the criminal organizations that are left in these countries that people come from, often seeking asylum, they have leverage over you because your family is still there in some capacity. So they can get you to send money home, and it makes you even more likely to try to avoid doing the immigration in any sort of legal capacity and avoiding the government entirely. So that was the last 4 years or so under Trump, and now we're going to focus in on specifically what we're doing with children at the border now. So right now, if a family arrives, the children will not be separated from their family. What we're talking about with child detention facilities are different in this case. We're talking about children who arrive unaccompanied. And in this respect, our policy is very similar, if not just identical, to the Trump administration's policy with this. So we're no longer separating families, but we still are forcibly detaining children, like 100%. And the notion that we don't have children in cages is like just like we painted the cages pink and they aren't chain link fences anymore.
Perfect.
So,
Problem solved.
like,
yeah,
We're done. We're done here.
So it's
We solved
almost-
we
it.
did it.
almost
We
like a-
succeeded.
So it's
Yep.
almost
So-
like a zoo, right?
yeah, almost. I mean, you could think of them that way.
Get some
Yeah.
grass.
And I do want to make note of the fact that, like, I'm talking about like a meta discussion about how to handle immigration going forward. Like, if you want to talk about like, well, how do you do this with like COVID going on? That's like a different discussion in my mind, and we can talk about
You
that.
can't.
But like, No,
Long
it's-
story short.
yeah, I'm not as interested in that discussion because it presumably we should be getting over this within at least in Biden's estimation, within like about a year and a half or so. And none of this stuff is framed as temporary until COVID's over.
Oh no,
Um,
he's so happy. He's so happy he got COVID. That saved his career.
No, if you notice from the
But
administration,
but it will come and get him.
yeah, if you notice from the
That's not over.
administration, none of this rhetoric is like a fixed time frame. All the rhetoric is just that we have to do this. The defenders of the Democratic Party are out messaging that it's temporary. Trump was going to be permanent, but
Mhm.
there's no indication from the administration that this
Yeah.
is a temporary situation. So
Well, there's no reason to believe them because here's the thing about it. I mean, they to cut to the end just for a second, they have eventually backpedaled on this and said that this is a temporary solution to these things. But there are two issues with this. The first is that as long as we have a war on drugs, this is forever.
right.
And
Yeah.
we're coming from the same person who is part of an administration that said we have a 2-year plan 10 times essentially for Afghanistan. So I don't want to fucking hear it that this is temporary because Afghanistan was supposed to be temporary and it fucking wasn't. So I don't
Didn't
understand
he
how
just
we
say
can.
that about someplace?
So
Some
you know,
missiles?
and we'll talk about solutions to this particular problem that just are not even on the table at this point. So we obviously don't have like a will with this administration to actually solve what's causing. And here's the thing, our current policy, according to an actual immigration lawyer, the logic behind it is when children arrive at the border, we have to forcibly detain them because if we don't, then and we don't vet the sponsors for these children, the people that these children want to end up with or say that they're going to go to or whatever, if we don't vet these people, they might end up in sex trafficking. And that reasoning.
It's almost like they should have had universal child care.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing here is that basically what this means is it's the same inverse, not inverse demand, but the same sort of inintuitive inverse, consequences by cracking down. Because
Right.
here's the thing about it.
They're doing that liberal thing where they're like, "This, we've got worse and worser than worse."
And that's those are your only choices, right? I mean, those are your only options. Is just like how much lube is
We
applied.
either have to kill these children at the border or we've got to detain them. No one can think of any other options. Those are the only two options.
My God,
So-
man! If there was a better way, we'd have done it. Now beat that child.
And I love how they're like, well, you could just use the foster system. There's no foster system.
Yeah, what foster system?
The
Well, they don't even want them to end up in the foster system.
no.
This is actually like part of her this immigration
Going
lawyer.
right back to the.
This
going right back
immigration
to the
lawyer
topic.
that made these posts. Her name was Jen on Twitter. I'm just going to refer to her as Jen. But anyway, they don't want them to end up with state programs. They don't want them to end up with foster care programs. They don't want them to end up with charities or anything like that. It has to be the federal government. Something that actually Dan would probably agree with, except for the part where it's like forcibly detaining the kids. But like,
yeah, you had me at the government takes care of its people. You lost me at by locking them up.
so yeah.
Not
See,
going to lie,
here's the
had
thing.
me in the first.
At least
half.
give that kid a phone to call home.
Yeah, that would. What are they going to do though? Because you don't know if they're just calling their trafficker. that logic, I actually do know why they say that, and it's funny you mention universal child care as a solution, because that's unfortunately childcare and women working is like the root of the problem, because the right wing's hatred of vaginas knows no fucking bounds. It is endless.
Does it? It really doesn't.
It really does. I can touch on that at the very end because we're gonna have to get into some dark places anyway. Let's go right into the right wing shithole, but we'll save it for last.
So here's the thing about this. There are, as far as I can conceive, two primary situations in which a child arrives at the border unaccompanied. Situation A, which is the most common, which is that the child makes a deal with a coyote or some sort of service that will get them across the border.
Coyote or the wolf.
And they make a deal, and they say, I will transport you for this amount of money, and either you pay me up front or you do something when you get to the United States to pay it off. And if we're doing the debt system here, if you try to run away from this debt, will hurt you or your family, right? So that's the first system. And if they pay up front, oftentimes they end up exploited anyway, but that's just part and parcel with this stuff. Or they manage to get to the border themselves, and they either get caught by Border Patrol, or they voluntarily go to a facility, right? Those are the two situations. So here's the thing. If the kids arrive at the facility for whatever reason, if the kid is in a situation where violence is being threatened, the fact that they are at that facility forcibly detained just imperils them and their family further. Because at that point, what's going to end up happening is, either the DHS or whoever, the immigration people, will place them somewhere that they're presumably safe, quote unquote, and separate them from these people that they're indebted to, or they will deport them. And in either case, they're still in this debt, and their family's under threat, and now their lives are under threat as well. Prima facie, there is no other situation there. It just imperils those kids, who are a huge portion of, that is the huge portion of the mechanism by which they reach the border. Or, at best, in a best case scenario where they've already paid the money that they're going to pay, or they got there of their own volition somehow, you are just like further impeding them toward getting to the place that they need to get, right? Because you're going to try to means test their sponsor to make sure that they're not like a bad person or whatever,
Right.
when you could provide that for them in some capacity. You can essentially fulfill those roles as a government entity without like locking them up. And they're not going to fucking trust you if they know that they can, it's like Hotel California, they can't fucking leave when they want, right? They're not going to trust you to go there at that point.
Yeah.
And here's what this comes down to, in my opinion. These facilities have to be voluntary, and they have to always be a net positive for someone who interacts with them. They can never be negative.
The kid can't consent.
I mean, that is part of it, and they do need help. But at the same time, like, if people have negative interactions with these facilities, then they won't trust them, and they'll get used less, and they'll fall into bad hands more often. So it has to come forward from the idea that these facilities, much like a facility that is like a safe injection site or whatever, they have to be no judgment, only positive helping facilities.
Now, when you say have to, who's enforcing that?
Yeah, because
Well, that's a
When
whole
you're
other
referring
thing.
to safe injection sites, that thing that we don't even do that here.
No,
for
we
our own
definitely
don't.
don't
We
do
don't.
that.
yeah.
It was an example. Maybe it was a poor example,
That
but
hypothetical
a
thing that would
dumpster
really
syringe.
benefit American citizens.
I I agree with you, but we're going to have to annihilate ice as a concept to do it because you
Yeah,
can't.
Dude,
it's
fuck
all
ice.
it's bad. It's only there to be bad.
Yes. Well, that and they've already shown that they're a rogue government agency, right? So now on
Yeah.
at the public under public purview allegedly, they're just saying fuck it to orders and they're doing what they want, meaning like the white nationalists have won ICE. So your next step is to defund them, which
Got your
Biden won't.
kids.
Yeah, Biden won't. Which is a disturbing thing to yield an entire government agency to white nationalists on the premise like, look, they outnumber us. What are we gonna do?
They tried the outside coup. Now they're doing the inside coup.
Yeah, well, they've been doing the inside coup for years. They've just made it known, you know. But
Right.
who the fuck else is gonna
Well,
wake
they
up
do
in the
that.
morning?
They do that occasionally.
Well, that's true. But you know, who the fuck else is gonna wake up in the morning and be like, you know what I'm gonna do today? I'm gonna kidnap a kid and I'm gonna go out into the desert and shoot
Oh,
bottles of
you know
water.
these kind of people well.
Yeah, they're ICE agents. Like that's the fucking problem. It's the only people who's gonna get horny
Man,
enough
I'm
to
just
do
trying
this.
to feed my family.
Man, I'm just trying to cheat my
You
family.
sure you could have done anything other than that?
You can't think of a single thing you could have done in lieu of kidnapping children. No, I can't.
Not and get to cause massive harm to immigrants. Like, come on. What
Yeah.
am I supposed to do? Not fucking destroy the lives of other people to make
Or
myself
then
feel
you can
better?
shake a stick at.
Yeah, you're literally supposed to do what you love.
Yeah, that's then you won't work a day in your life.
Yeah, and you'll never work it. So I don't work at all, but I do get paid by ICE to be fucking racist.
So is that better or worse than baby seals?
It's far worse.
Far worse. I got you. So that's like better for them, right? To get that stiffy faster.
Yeah, it's far worse to do this to human beings than baby seals. Although doing it to baby seals already puts you as like kind of disgusting because you're like,
Yeah. Because you already know that you know the baby seal thing is like, well, what if they did that to baby humans and then
yeah. I mean, we're already in a gross
treat it like an
spot.
equivalent, right? That's what I was asking. Like if you sink the one, you'll probably sink the other.
Oh yeah, if you'll do it to a human, you'll do it to a baby seal. These people are freaks. They're just utter monsters.
Super
Literally,
freaks.
literally just a living
Oh, they should make a horror game about that, like Resident Evil
Oh.
8.
But the zombies are just ice. Okay, you sold me.
Yeah, I'd play that game. I haven't even played the most recent Resident Evil games, so I would be
Like you could have like the Ice Age's head pop off and he becomes like a giant spider on it with like centipede neck.
Yeah, and he's just posting Pepe's.
And he's like, I'm the Ice Agent. Where's your dad? Where's your dad?
So
I haven't seen him.
Where are the parents? Where are the parents?
the final point I just wanted to make with this stuff is that eventually obviously there's no way around the fact that people eventually ended up saying things like think about the fact that these kids have this perilous journey. You think that these facilities look like juvie detention halls, but these kids probably think they're very comfortable and professional spaces for like very official and powerful spaces that they can finally achieve the things that they want to. It's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, the idea that like the kids travel across this perilous Sonoran desert and risk their lives to cross only to end up in fucking a concrete cell block that's painted pink, like that's better, like that's great for some reason, especially since most of the kids are teenagers. Like they're not fucking most of these kids who arrive like this who are unaccompanied, they're not 5-year-olds for the most part. So like, no, they don't see it that way. They have like a conception that the place is like this horrible place that has this veneer of like friendliness. They can understand that fact, right? So yeah, there's an infinite amount wrong with that sort of thinking, and of course, Biden's press secretary said, well, these are only temporary until the unaccompanied kids stop coming. So forever. So forever. It's just forever.
Yeah, it's
Great.
forever. Yeah,
But yeah,
think
go-
about this too, right? If you remember during the Trump administration's reign of hell, right?
Mhm.
These same liberal freaks were saying stuff like it's wrong to keep kids in cages. Um, I'm sorry, I totally just lost that fucking point. But they they went out of their way to make sure to demonize it. You're kidnapping children, you get your kids in cages, and now they're turning around and doing an about face immediately. They would say, let's take that point. There it is. Let's take that point that they're going, where they're coming from and going to. If they're putting these camps, they're getting an upgrade. Things are getting really, really better for them, right?
That's what they always say.
Think that through for a moment. Do you remember the outrage at the notion that those countries were shitholes, right? Do you remember that outrage?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
then they're just implying that, huh?
right. They agree. They agree that they're shitholes, but they don't want to be seen as saying they're shitholes. You know, I I hearken back to it a lot, but a lot of my thesis on liberalism is just it is really just lying. Like liberalism is just a series of contradictions, and like you cannot trust what they say at all because they agree with every right wing premise, but they're going to lie about it unless they benefit from it. So when Trump was doing it, of course you don't benefit from it. Of course you put on these airs, you do this performative wokeness. Those countries aren't shitholes. These places are great. He's just being a
Mhm.
racist. All people are equal. Blah blah blah. And then the minute they get a little sniffet, just a little taste right in their tongue of power, what is it immediately? Well, those countries are shitholes. We can't, you can't let these kids. What the fuck are they gonna do? You're gonna let them come from there and just like not take care of them? And like, what if they're getting raped? Which was literally Trump's mantra for 4 fucking years. They're gonna
Yeah, they're
rape
just
the
a bunch of rapists.
Yeah. These are just a bunch of rapists. These kids are all being raped. We're not getting anything fundamentally different. So like when
Mhm.
people
Sounds nicer.
it doesn't even sound nicer.
No,
It does
probably.
if you
I
literally
imagine
don't
it.
think about it at all.
Oh, got me there. Got my ass.
And
Got
you know,
your ass.
one thing about this, and this sort of leads into a bigger point that
Wait, there's
you know,
a rug. There's a rug. I need to sweep something under it.
that you know, I've been pontificating here a bit, but I think this leads into a larger point that I don't have any notes about, so you know you can open up the floor on. But basically, what is the justification for this at the end of the day? The justification for it is some unknown percentage of these kids might get sexually abused if we don't forcibly detain every single one of them, right?
Yeah.
When they get here, that's what they're saying. And you know, of course, you know what's the fever at the heart of QAnon? Pedophiles. The pedophiles are in charge of these things.
Yeah.
And of course, what is at the heart of this immigration policy? It's also pedophiles. That's also the entirety of the justification for this policy.
Well,
And-
you know, historically, you can do anything you want if you frame it in the form of "this is for the children."
Yeah.
Well, yes, but you know, further just to broaden it out, at any point when you ask a liberal nowadays, why do we have the justice system framework that we do? They'll tell you, well, yes, the war on drugs is racist, and the war on terror was pointless, but we still need these frameworks because of human trafficking, because we can aim the gun that was given to us to point at the war on drugs and to point at brown people with terrorism and whatnot. We can point that gun at people who sex traffic, right? So we have to have it. We just have to have the gun because of that as a result.
Which, if you recall, whose mantra is that? That's the Trump mantra. It's because of all the pedophiles. We've already heard all that. They're literally rehashing the same awful fucking shit.
Now, you're right. In terms of cultural affect, I'd say the main difference is that Republicans talk exclusively about pedophiles, whereas Democrats talk broadly about sex trafficking. But it's basically it's the same fucking thing. It's just a more polite way to say pedophiles.
Yeah.
That has a different cultural affect. It's effectively the same thing.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Because if you're talking about pedophiles on the right,
that would only be one part of it, right?
It's not. But importantly,
it's the only part they give a shit about.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yes, I'm
okay,
stuttering because I'm
so
so
yeah,
fucking
sure.
mad. importantly, like the only part they're talking about is children plus sex traffickers. Now, what the fuck else are you talking about if not fucking pedophiles? So
Well, like the human trafficking, this is such a touch point for me too, right? Because the vast majority of human trafficking and human trafficking laws is actually focused on a portion that people don't even realize is happening. It's coerced labor, which
Yeah.
you're going to have a little field day that I'm admitting this, of course, right? But that's what 90% of these trafficking laws are utilized for, because that's what 90% of trafficking is. It's not people moving kids across global lines in an effort to have sex with them. It's people being coerced into the country to do work for far less than what they can pay someone in the country to do it for.
AKA nothing.
Yeah, it's literal theft of labor in the most direct way
Strictly
possible.
slavery.
in our country, the two major types of trafficking are labor and sex. Obviously, there's not really other reasons to traffic, but for like what, escape to Canada, maybe.
No. That's literally like the
Well, then
definition of
you
human
can get them in
trafficking
you can get them in
includes
debt
theft of
forever.
labor.
There's a lot of different ways to make money from it.
Yeah, but I mean, those are the two primary forms. From the stats I was
The
reading, sex trafficking
Cash
is the
cow.
most, but
No, it's so much
uh,
less than
uh,
people think it is.
but across the border in the country, trafficking takes the form most often of sex trafficking. You're right,
It
though.
doesn't though. That's the thing.
No, let me finish the fucking
There's a
point,
lot of
buddy.
theft of labor.
Let me finish the point. All right. If you
Sure.
call sex trafficking all labor, then yes, you're just stealing labor. But we do define it differently. The problem is that human trafficking across the border is labor trafficking. The problem is the people who are being sex trafficked are generally kids from broken homes in America, because the people who sex traffic live in America and can see when children are hurting, or they can just go to them through the internet.
But
It's
like
a lot harder if you don't fucking speak English to lure somebody to sex traffic them. If you speak the
Right.
same language. So
Well, they just snatch people up.
That doesn't happen. Not realistically, it doesn't happen. It does. I want to be very clear about this as I make this point too. There is a very small percentage of instances where such a thing does happen, just enough to make it a fear point for America. But statistically, it just doesn't happen. Like, people do not get picked up.
it
Stranger danger is not a legitimate fear.
Oh no, not that way. No,
it
it's
is
usually about some job.
The vast majority of sex trafficking, quote unquote, here in America happens not by some fucking giant cabal of sex traffickers. Like, it happens because your fucking coked up boyfriend convinces you that it's okay to have sex with someone else so that he can pay off some fucking coke debts. Or you have sex for a place to sleep at night because you're living homeless out on the street. And it's better
Drugs.
to fuck some guy and have a warm bed to sleep in
Drugs.
than sleep out on the street. Or drugs.
Drugs.
Like, these are not what we picture whenever we say human trafficking. It's
No.
just not.
in the terms of
It
child
is
victims,
coerced. It is
But
quite
it is
coerced.
statistically how it happens.
it's a lot of times with children specifically, it's just lured through social media, grooming and shit like that, and you find that in very disgusting forms. You look at somebody like Epstein. I would consider him a trafficker if he's moving these
Sure.
children all around.
Absolutely. And these get the highest profile cases, right? Because it is absolutely abhorrent. You're obviously not going to get me to sit here and be like, no, Jeffrey Epstein's a good guy. No, he's a fucking piece
No,
of
I
shit.
don't
I'm
think you
glad he's
would.
fucking dead.
I just want to make it clear, though, in the case of what the liberals are screaming about is children being sex trafficked across the border, when in reality it is rich, oftentimes liberals or apolitical donors who just want money, right? Epstein was a profit donor. He donated to Trump and Clinton. You have these people who lure vulnerable children. They're already in the country. They're fucking, number one, they're already here. Number two, they all make millions plus dollars. Like, they just lure kids on the internet. You look at all the YouTube things, all the YouTube groomers. You look at their associated contacts who are in networks to groom children, which is the real bread and butter sex trafficking, is a disgusting a term that is, right? And then they're selling them off primarily A, for the purposes of child pornography, or B, they're selling them to somebody like Jeffrey Epstein. When you come to adult women, it's the situation you're describing. My boyfriend is so coked out and he really wants me to fuck this dude for coke money. You know.
Or I'm living on the street homeless, and if I fuck this dude, I can stay at his house for tonight.
But yeah, that's see,
It happens
That's
more
oddly
often than you think.
specific.
I think the difference is though, like if it's just I fuck this guy and I'm coked up, right? We would call that something akin to rape, and I think you're conflating rape with sex trafficking. Because
they're both.
I see that event occur in rape statistics. I don't see that replicated in sex trafficking.
Yeah. So what exactly are you saying goes on down here? Like that's such an oddly
Specifically in
specific
Western
example.
Pennsylvania.
It literally happens anywhere, but generally it happens around cities where
I feel like it's different in different places.
Sex trafficking occurs a lot, and those statistics get conflated with numbers that occur from prostitution, and primarily because it's considered sex trafficking when anyone underage engages in prostitution, regardless of whether or not it's a 17-year-old homeless person doing such a thing, right? If they just do it themselves because they've been put in such a fucking shitty situation their whole lives that they feel like this is a thing that they're forced to do, they get included in the sex trafficking numbers.
Yes.
But that's not what we picture when we say the words sex trafficking.
No, the picture is somebody smuggled across the border, more akin to what
In a shipping container to
It's like a Jason Bourne variation.
right.
It's like a kid just like vanishing in and out.
Yeah, I would say when we think of sex trafficking, we think of organized crime, whereas
and then the mafia
term-
shows up.
yeah, whereas like what the term actually means, it's sort of an umbrella term that means a lot of things that include the crime being done on a very individuated basis, and can also include the organized crime element of it. I don't know if there's a term for specifically the sort that's done in an organized fashion. Probably some sort of God, what would you call it? Like incorporated sex trafficking, or
I mean, they
mob-based.
Just be a network, right?
The other problem you run into with these statistics, right, is the groups, the internal groups, the organizers within our nation that are trying to quote unquote fight this sort of thing.
Mhm.
One, have no interest in getting actual numbers, right? They're literally uninterested in it. Like if you look at the statistics that most of these companies are fucking putting out, they're trash. They're beyond trash. Because
they just want to go to their
financial incentive. They have a financial incentive to make this like a moral panic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's common, and yeah, they do that with
everything.
Rapes.
Because we live in a capitalist hellhole. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Thank you for finally admitting it. I appreciate that.
I have always admitted this.
I thought I was gonna get the first one of those. Come on, man.
Listen, I have always admitted this. But as we continue on, they have a financial incentive to make this the biggest moral panic possible. But the fact of the matter is, the statistics don't in reality bear it out. And anyone running those statistical numbers gets held up and said, well, you're just trying to protect fucking people like Jeffrey Epstein and sex traffickers. Right? Because if you want to put out information that the numbers on sex trafficking is not what they make it out to be, what does that fucking sound like?
Well, it sounds like sex trafficking apology.
Yeah.
Sounds like a cover up.
And just to be clear, like this is not to shorten or in any way like mitigate the very few rare instances where this does legitimately happen. Because there's a lot of advocates that are like, I legitimately was brought here from, the Philippines to be a sex worker. Like in those rare instances where this happens, it's fucking abominable. Like absolutely terrible, and I really want that to not happen, but it statistically does not happen that often, and we could be focusing our efforts on other things.
Not anymore. Not in that particular form.
No, let me even put it more specifically. The last time that I looked at these numbers, the instances of children being snatched or brought over like that for sex trafficking in that picture that we imagine from like a different country and brought over for that specific purpose, there have been 0 recorded instances of it. 0.
All right.
Well, here's the thing about it, though, that's important is regardless of, well, excuse me,
But
broaden
borders
this
are
out.
a thing, though, right?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Borders are a thing, though. I feel
Yeah,
like that's,
well,
I feel like that's so oddly specific. Of course, there'd be zero.
Right. But I mean, it's exactly what we picture, right? Is like they're
Yeah,
bringing
but
these
it's
12-year-old
but
girls
if
and
but
12-year-old
all
boys.
you're saying is we should just broaden the definition,
No, I'm saying
or
that our
broaden people's
definitions are
idea
shit,
on the definition of it,
and that all of this focus and
or
money is
maybe
being
we
put
should have
into it.
education.
Oh
Fucking
yeah,
what?
I mean, I'm always in favor of education, so obviously, that's the one thing that definitely
Maybe
won't
people
happen.
should like research things.
Actually give a shit about the things that they're giving money to, like maybe not give money to companies that actively
Did the right
stop.
did the right make that one up, or did the left? I lose track.
It's both. Because once again, you're doing it for the children.
Oh jeez, man.
Listen,
Y-
all I'm hearing is capitalism is horrifying. Which A, I told you so, and B, thank you for coming around to my point.
I mean,
What?
when you make property, people got to get property.
I literally said this like 4 or 5 episodes ago. I said, you got me. If I was to design the system that we were using, I would not choose capitalism.
I know. I
We're
just
At any
we're
rate,
stuck.
at any rate, I feel like it's just a split in slavery. They just kind of like, hey, how could we do this, but like differently?
But worse.
even more evil.
Haphazard. Like less organized, so no one can say, hey, what are you doing over there?
Yeah.
Slavery? No, don't do that.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
So-
whoa, whoa, whoa! Slavery! Whoa, whoa, whoa!
What are you doing over there? Oh, prisons. Prisons?
Prisons.
for a second though, I want to meet the liberal where they are in terms of the fever dream that they've imagined, in terms of what a sort of networked sex trafficking situation that they've imagined exists, and what it means for immigrants on the whole, and also specifically unaccompanied immigrant minors. Like what this means, because here's the thing about this: if there really is a very large number of sex trafficked minors or adults who are in this country that are immigrants, if that's the primary form of sex trafficking, or even if it's just a form that you want to stamp out somehow, at every instance, if your primary tool for interacting with them is ICE and cracking down on them that way,
Yes.
you guarantee A, that they will never report the people that are doing this to them,
But you think they don't know that?
and B, at every instance, just completely inflicting violence on these people that are presumed victims. And you bring up a good point here. Do they know that? I would say the people in charge know that, but your average, like, riding with Biden wine mom in fucking Minnesota or whatever, like people who voted for Klobuchar in the primaries and then were really enthusiastic, like, oh well, Klobuchar didn't win, but I want to vote for Biden or whatever. Like those kind of people, right? They believe that, right? I mean, just straight out, they do. And we can't reach fucking globe emoji Twitter. It's never gonna happen. Fuck them. Whatever, right?
Yeah.
But in theory, you can meet the proverbial liberal that you know next door where they're at and walk them through this, because presumably some of them are more willing to listen to you than certainly than a chud, and certainly more than your fucking dead eye heartless Pete Buttigieg type. So I think that you can make some forward progress with that specific group of people. And if they really do live in fear of or believe that there is this sort of sex trafficking network, then
I was just laughing at how terrible the Buttigieg fans are.
well, yeah, I mean, there's a reason he fucking burned out immediately. But yeah, it's that's about where it's at, which is that the only tools that we have for interacting with these people are just inflicting violence on them. And what we're doing with these children now is still just inflicting violence on them, essentially. And we are in a best case scenario inconveniencing them, and in a worst case scenario, like imperiling them and their family. There is no situation at this point where a child migrant gets to the border and thinks to themselves, gosh, I really do hope I interact with DHS. They just don't. What the fuck is the point? Because here's the thing about that, right?
I mean, how many of them are aware?
Well, excuse me. Yes, they would have to have all of this information at hand. That is actually a good point that you brought up earlier, which is that many of them don't make this sort of like overt calculation that I'm making. That I have all of this information. They don't always when they cross the border. I'm talking about sort of an archetypical, like, how do I put it? On the whole, the calculation that gets made by them. I'm not talking about individuals. You're absolutely right. Most of them will not make this calculation, especially if they're like 8-year-olds. They're not working through this logically necessarily, right? But yeah, I do think that this does go through many of their heads, and on the whole, this is the sort of conclusions that they reach, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Of course, everybody
Yeah.
listening knows that I talk exactly like an 8-year-old.
That sounds right.
I can vouch. You do.
Mac and cheese.
Can I get some tendies after this?
Macaroni in the pot.
Yeah. It's
The dinosaurs, the good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's a really horrific situation, and what it evolves from, right? The reason we're in this hell world is, of course, number one, like, you can just write it off as Fox News, right? That's easy, and it's not incorrect. It's just not, deep enough to explain it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason we're in this situation, this monstrous hell world that we all know and love, it stems back into the 1960s, right? This is when you have women really entering the workplace in force and not just as domestic labor. Because as I've bitched before, right, we always say, oh, women were entering the workplace. What they mean is women were entering the office, because a woman leaving her children alone for 10, 12 hours a day to go take care of a rich person's kids, don't even bat an eye. That's not even real work, Well, she's just taking better care of my kid instead of her own kid. I pay her a few bucks. It's great, right? Nobody gave a shit. Nobody batted a fucking eye. But the moment that women started threatening to take construction jobs, teaching, reassert themselves as teachers, take jobs as doctors, lawyers, etc., all that petty bourgeois shit, the hinterland capitalists literally fucking flipped the lid and went insane, right? So
Sounds right.
You have 20 years of this plus the sexual revolution, which, was basically women aren't sexual property. That has been, as we all know, greatly distorted now. Cool.
I missed that memo.
Yeah, right. What you have then, and of course you also have immigration routinely, and more immigration as the CIA ramps up its activities in the Southern Hemisphere, making countries more and more intolerable and empowering criminal cartels in the global South, right? You have this trifecta of bullshit that drives immigration northward, and you have this panic that women aren't at home. So what we first get, the first iteration of this, is the satanic panic, right?
Yeah.
We get, oh my god, there's fucking pedophiles everywhere, and these women are leaving their kids, and these people are worshiping the fucking literal devil, the literal ass devil. He's the real ass devil, people. They're murdering people, they're butchering them, and so on. And this is a way
With
to
his
shame
ass.
women. Yeah, this is a way to shame women for the act of leaving the home and entering the workplace.
For having the gall to be forced into a situation in which they had to just work.
Well,
Bastard women.
yeah.
Well, and a
You
lot of
mean
that
the war?
Yes. I can't believe women would start this war just to get into jobs.
Yeah. Well, again, remember, this is, if it's domestic labor, yeah, she can work 14, 15 hours a day. Who gives a shit about her stupid fucking kids, right? But if it's a job as a lawyer or a doctor, well, wait, hold the fucking phone here, motherfucker. You're telling me she wants to run a Denny's? What about all the fucking pedophiles, huh? She's not watching her fucking kids? What is this bullshit? And if you notice, that rhetoric gets carried over and applied to minorities especially. You see variants upon it of like the deadbeat dad concept. You're not home. You see plays on it. The deadbeat dad concept is never hit nearly as hard, right? Because let's face it, Republicans are just deadbeat dads. Like, they all are.
Why do they all want to be gay with their dads then, if they're such deadbeat dads?
Well, it's because like
They
their
want their
dad
cake,
was
they need it too.
Yeah. These are spoiled people, like, deep down. But the next evolution of that, of course, is there's all these people coming across the border, and you also happen to hate immigrants because they threaten to disrupt the low wage order, right? Because the real problem with immigration is that if you have a ton of people coming in and paying a bunch of fucking taxes and working, the problem isn't that they're stealing jobs from the locals. The problem is suddenly you have an influx of human labor, which means things are more productive. You have more consumers in the market and wages start to rise because you have more demand. And when you have more demand, you have to employ more workers. That cuts into profits. So profits have to go down, demand goes up, and the economy increases. So you already are panicked about immigrants, or excuse me, you're already panicked about women, those utter whores, taking your petty bourgeois capital, and now you're going to tell me all these fucking people are going to come over here. I have to pay them like they're human beings, right?
That's bullshit.
That's fucking bullshit. And then they're going to be fucking working at these jobs and I have to look at them? Fuck all of that. No, they're pedophiles.
All of them.
That's the thought process evolution. Fuck them. Women
That's
are
quite
fucking
elaborate. Dang. It takes some effort to get that dumb.
It's not dumb, it's greed.
It doesn't take that much effort. Don't you worry.
Just keep stumbling around like, let's add this. Add this.
It's motivated by sheer greed. And you're not actually, like, these conspiracy theories, a lot of people now are taking them as some sort of sacrosanct fact because, of course, on top of that, we've had liberals erode institutions in favor of the market. Well, if your boss is going off about these fucking pedophile sex traffickers who are working with the Democrats, and the Democrats have been spending their time eroding institutions and confidence in government, it really is them. The Republicans aren't as responsible for that as we like to give them credit for. It really is Democrats because you expect them to come in and fix it, and they solidify what the horrible thing the Republican wanted to do. Reagan didn't accomplish much beyond attacking the airport union, but he set a tone for Clinton to come in and just absolutely gut fucking public unions.
Ow.
Reagan wanted to cut Social Security and made a big stink about it. George H.W. Bush was the most ineffectual person ever, unless he was murdering JFK, right? There he was fucking 1-for-1 effective. But Clinton comes along and attacks social welfare and sets the framework for attacking Social Security that the Democrats are signaling, we will cut it, give us an opportunity to cut it, right? Republicans set tax cuts that have a short-term lifespan, even though it's a horrific amount and it's a horrific size. Democrats come in and codify it. Democrats come in, the way it functionally works is Republicans say, we're going to do this horrible thing, and Democrats say, those idiots can't do shit because they don't know how to govern. We'll do it. That's their Those sons of bitches don't know how to use government to destroy government. We really know how. Republicans just know how to attack government like dogs, right? We're the masters. So, when you have these hinterland capitalists going off about...
They're like doing trick shots, like layups and shit.
That's exactly it.
They're dunking on them.
Yeah.
This is how you destroy it.
Republicans, to use that analogy, Republicans want to play basketball, can't fucking dribble. Democrats don't really want to play basketball at all, but they're technically skilled at
it. Man, guys, I really wish we could be playing volleyball right now, but I guess I'll just keep hitting these 3-pointers from downtown.
Yeah. That's
nothing but net.
Yeah. So, you have your boss ranting about these fucking pedos and these Democrats and shit, and now your boss, who's usually like bitching about your workout flow, right? He's now bitching about these Democratic pedophiles. He's bitching about fucking immigrants. He may be so far as to be directly racist against other citizens. And then he says, don't you agree? And when you say, yeah, that's pretty fucked up, Now that guy wants to have a beer with you. He won't raise your wages, but now he's nice to you and he'll have a beer with you, and he comes and fucking shows you his fucking 8-page Minion meme about race war that he picked up on the internet.
Thank God. I was worried I wasn't going to see the Minion memes.
I know, right? You were. So you're the guy I'm talking about. You convinced me.
Fun fact: the Minions are anthropomorphized kids.
Yes. Fact. But
God damn it.
you know, that's what's happening. So it's easier to identify with your boss who now likes you and wants you to agree with him, so he's being extra nice, versus somebody like Obama who says, yeah, we're just going to cut trucking jobs. Yeah, fuck coal jobs, you know.
Thanks, Obama.
Eh?
Eh?
The Republicans want to cut those jobs too. They want to turn driving jobs into fully automated trucking, which is dangerous as shit because it's a giant fucking truck. It's bad enough as a car, but now it's a fucking truck with no really. The goal is to eliminate the driver completely, not have somebody in that cab, so you don't have to pay nobody. That sounds horrific. That's gonna go real terrible.
Yeah, there's no way that can go wrong. It's not like trucks are, you know, massive or anything.
Yeah, we're not talking about a 90-ton vehicle. We're not. It's a fully automated killing machine at that point. And they want to extend that to like construction sites and all this kind of shit, right? Where you can pay one guy to control all of them or two guys to control all of them instead of all those construction workers. And with coal mining, coal's just not selling anymore. Is what it is. Those jobs really are going away, but instead of diverting them to green energy, it's like, good, fuck them. Fuck those dirty coal miners. That's the Republican stance. But who can get the job done? Well, Republican can't. They're fucking, they're dumb baby brains. They're too busy raping children and buying children from sex traffickers.
That thing I specifically said doesn't really happen as often as people think it does.
Well, the problem is, though, again, we're talking about the instances where it does happen, and they all start with an R and end with Republican, okay?
Greater than 0.
Yeah, it is still
You know,
greater than
I
0.
really desperately want to throw in the legally these are jokes here, but I just can't find myself with the capacity to do so.
We're
I
talking
don't know
about a
what's wrong.
general group. I mean,
Yeah.
if we said, someone specific was doing it, like,
Well, Jeffrey
I don't know.
Epstein, we could say.
Yeah,
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 you can
we
say
can't
that
libel
one.
the dead.
You can't
Um,
libel the dead. We can definitively say Nixon was.
Yeah, absolutely.
We know Reagan was.
Ronald
sex
Reagan
trafficking
was
Nancy.
the biggest piece of shit ever.
He was sex trafficking. He was famous for sex trafficking blowjob Queen Nancy, actually. He used to do with her. This is kind of a cute story about Reagan, right? Mr. Family
Was
Values.
45 trafficked? Was his wife trafficked?
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
In a wider sense, she was brought to America for the specific purpose of nude modeling. So that would technically be sex work.
In
no,
Trump,
I
right,
mean,
Jake?
it's not like a Speaker of the House who was a Republican did that kind of thing, right? Like, it's not like, I don't know, Mark Foley did that, right?
No, not at all.
So,
No.
we would never allege that Mark Foley diddled kids.
And
Wait.
Newt Gingrich has definitely never diddled a child ever.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, so
Statistically.
my cute Reagan story. So what Reagan used to do when he and his buddies would be driving around California, i.e. trafficking a woman, he used to have her sit in the back seat, and whoever's sitting in the back got to get head from her. Yeah, that was his treat for hanging out with the Union president, Ronnie Reagan. So Nancy Reagan, super bitch par excellence. On this particular issue, I'm very sympathetic for it. Because Reagan was using her mouth and her blowjob skills to make people loyal to his fucking union. Because he was the head of the actors' fucking union.
SAG.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Fascinating.
It's fucking disgusting. I mean, like, again, you're right. That's not the common way it happens. But the instances we know about, that's how it happens. And it's fun to find out which fucking Republicans are sex traffickers. Turns out, probably all of them.
All right. Now I feel comfortable saying it. Legally, these are technically jokes.
I said probably, goddammit. Legally, you can't say I accused any one person. I just said if you take 20 of them, probably 19 are. And the 20th is Jim Jordan. Just being real. All right? Look, if they didn't want to get called out for being sex traffickers. They could just stop sex trafficking. That's not my fault.
And it's not our fault that Republicans are really shitty
Broad
at sex
daylight?
trafficking.
Come on, guys.
Yeah.
At least make it nighttime.
Be classy about it, for fuck's sake. There's a craft to this.
Get out racks. Come on, man.
Wow. So
Man, that was a fun episode.
yeah, this one was dark.
This one was real dark. Let's just take a moment here. Bring it all back. Why are Republicans so statistically likely to be sex trafficking monsters?
Entitlement. I
We
think.
just got to cut these entitlements. Really, like these
Less
entitlements are
power.
ruining America.
You figure all of these people feel like they were.
Yeah, I agree. And to do that, you dismantle the class system.
Yeah. Right. You figure what's the message they've gotten most of their lives? You're a white male, probably, right? Statistically, I'm right. I know there are.
Yeah.
Again, if you can use it, I can use it here. Okay.
Yeah, I use it all the time. Go ahead.
Right. So statistically, this is a white male who was raised in a country where his parents had a stable job, so he had an expectation and a sense of security that he could also have a stable job, and he was also taught that the world exists solely for his interests. Right. He lives
And
in
he
a
has
world
been proven right at every turn.
damn near every time. On the issues where he loses, it is immaterial. Anytime the white man loses, it is an immaterial loss, and it changes absolutely fucking nothing, except he has to now watch one word he says, and then realistically, probably doesn't. Like, again, when you're dealing with immaterial things, pretty fucking fluid. That's why I like the material myself. But they're raised in this world where they have this overblown sense of entitlement. They've been rewarded for manipulating others. They've been rewarded for exercising undue power over others in the forms of, disgusting sexual gratification, money, favors, connections to more powerful people to get more access to these things, etc. In some instances, they've actually engaged with slavery, right, in the modern sense, as the slave master. If you have any kind of domestic servitude going on in the household, in these households, if you have any, if they had a middle class household as it's traditionally defined, right, the woman was subordinate to the man, so they grew up to expect women's subordination to men.
Right.
And then
What gets me is you did all of this just so you don't have to do fucking laundry.
Yeah.
Like, god damn it.
That's again sense of
Washes
entitlement.
now.
Laundry is woman's work. That's the mentality they would use. I don't agree with it. I do the laundry in my household. I don't fucking rag on my friends like, oh, got a woman doing that work, right? But that's what they think. If we're talking
I
about
keep yelling at the woman in my house to do the laundry, but the dog just keeps staring at me like
You're-
I'm speaking French.
your teacup poodle yells at you.
Yeah. No, Rose is a good girl. I will not besmirch the name of my poor dog.
I'm just kidding. It's part of the bit from last night. The only funny thing.
In summary, fuck your dog.
Yeah, fuck your dog.
She's a good dog. I'd rather you insult me.
Yeah, she's a nice dog, but
She's a very good dog. She does her best.
yeah. So these people have spent years developing these networks, these connections, and this goes back. I'm talking about the people in power now and what they saw. You figure these networks have been in place literally since what, like 1600? They just keep taking new forms as the generation shifts, and now they've gotten to the point where they expect human labor is for their benefit, right? That's capitalism's premise, is the human labor is for the capitalist premise. Capitalists are entitled to that human labor. On the premise that they have money, they're paying them, so like they exchange.
Yeah, you get that contract, right? Libertarians. Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's literally the libertarians brag about it, right? The sense of entitlement to human labor. and the profits derived therefrom. So it doesn't. If you're already that perverse, right? If you're already that much of a pervert in the real moral sense, you simultaneously have a problem of ennui, right? You have longing that you can't fill, and you have a disdain for humanity generally. So the reason a lot of these people end up as pedophilic monsters, again, I will say a lot of them for legal reasons, so you don't have to say the line. It becomes a thrill, not unlike you'll see rich kids before they become these monsters, right? They'll do a lot of hard drugs that they really have no business doing. Hunter Biden is a fine example. They don't have a meaning in their life. They are devoid of humanity, and they have to fill it somehow and try to get to that feeling of humanity. And
let me put
they
this out
turn
there.
to very dark places to do it.
Let me put this out there into the world. In case anyone was at all concerned that the Sons of Trier would stop insulting the office of the presidency whenever a Democrat came into power.
You dumb fuck.
Fuck Joe
Worked.
Biden.
Yeah. Oh wow. If anybody thought that, what a dumb fucker. I mean it. I mean that. If you're in our audience and think we were gonna kiss Joe Biden's ass, where the fuck have you been, you dipshit? Oh, you utter fucking toad. Oh shit, that is the funniest thing I've heard. Woo.
All right.
Woo. Yeah, on that note, if you're a Joe Biden stan, you can go fuck yourself.
On that note, welcome to the Sons of Trier podcast. We're starting round 2. Here we go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's fucking do this. All right.
Round 2, fight.
Fight. All right.
Brutality.
Good job, guys.
Hmm.
For you, those of you with the brain, love you.
Yeah.
Love you.
To the
Surprisingly few.
to the surprisingly few people and listening to us, and I assume that if you're still listening to us, you have half a brain.
Yeah,
We
you have
love
mental
you.
damage.
I mean,
don't
emotional damage is different than mental damage.
No, they have mental damage. The wiring's wrong. That's why I'm here.
That's why. No, that's why we're here. That's not
Yeah.
why they're listening.
No, that's the same thing. Yeah, it's filet a do.
You're filleting a dude?
No, filet a do. It's a phenomenon. I'll get into that one next. I have some fun stories with filet a do in the riots, actually. So.
Listen, I'm not sure I want to listen to you fillet a dude.
No, again, it's French. It is not the act of oral sex on a dude, which is perfectly fine.
Oui, je parle français.
As long as that dude is over 18 and consenting.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you?
We did just do an episode about human trafficking, and you're talking about possibly forcibly filleting a dude.